Yeah.
Oh, there we go. I'm good. All right. We recorded. We're good to go.
Oh, very good. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually, here's the presentation that I made. It's kind of a lot of my own stuff, so I don't know how helpful it's going to be to you. Some of the links at the end will be helpful, I think, perhaps if you want to use them. So that's down in the chat box. So if you want to open that, but I'm going to show mine on Zoom. So I think it'd be better if you guys just stick with Zoom with me, go from there. Okay. And yeah, I think if you guys go to the session notes and put your information in there at some point, that way you're I'm connected with that, I suppose, right? Okay, so welcome. My name is Dan Sullivan. I teach sciences at School Without Walls. And since we're a small group, maybe we just make a real quick, hi, this is where I teach.
Hi, my name is Ann Lewis. I'm at North Star on Oakman, and I teach literacy.
Great.
I'm Liz Dunn. I'm a special ed science teacher. I identify more with my science end though than I do with the special ed part. But I teach at Franklin Lower. I was at IAT for a number of years. Science is my passion.
Oh, also, I should add, I am a special ed teacher, and I was in an 811. Then I went out sick, and then somebody took my class, so they put me in literacy. So whatever.
I'm Miranda Stefano, and I actually am an oddball. I work for Hillside Children's Center, and I am their librarian.
Oh, that's very cool.
Good.
And I'm Juan Betancourt. I teach at Monroe. I do chemistry science and bilingual science.
Fabulous. So thanks, guys. We got a good range here, right? So, I invite you when we start, like any type of intuition you have or idea that fits, or you want to challenge it, even whatever it is, by all means, we can have an open conversation to this. So I did make a presentation. I did this in response to Alina reaching out, and I thought, well, this I really like, and I'm exploring it. I'm obviously no expert, and I'm going to share kind of what I've done. This has a definite flavor with the next generation science standards. Yeah, I find it also, it's a little, the tools are a little more broad, I think. Okay, so check this out. And there's a lot of creativity with this. What we're basically going to do is we're going to explore this idea of sense making. And then I'm going to offer you an example, just a kind of a puzzle pieces of a unit that I did earlier in the year with an environmental science class that I teach, which I really enjoyed. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and I guess we're recording, right? Super cool. All right, so sense making, and we're gonna have people come in. Great. So here's this is how this could work. We're gonna try a little participation. So if you guys have pen and paper, because eventually I'm gonna have you draw a model of what we're doing. Okay, be aware of that. Hello, Paul, welcome. And you could use if you want to use like a Google Draw type of thing, you can share on your screen. Lots of options. With my students, usually I'll give them options. You could use pen and paper, you could use Google Draw, or you can even use like a drawing on Nearpod, which isn't very good. I find pen and paper really good because they take images of it and show it. So we're going to do a little of that. Ask any questions and share at any time. Great. If you have any ideas or resources that somehow fit, please share them in the session notes. You could also put them in the chat box, but I think session notes are going to last. So if you could put them there, good. We got the roles all taken care of. Thank you all. And we're recording the session. So let's start right up. And so what is sense making? And I don't know if you guys get this. Maybe you do. So anybody care to share? What does it mean to you?
So students come to us, well, students, adults, everyone comes to us with like, we have knowledge and information, and we have maps of that information in our brain. And then when we're asked to take something new and fit it into that, we have to figure out, how does that new information fit into that pre-existing, web of information? So that sense-making process is like that reorganization and that fitting in to say, where does this fit into what I already know? What do I have to reject or amend? How does this all work?
That's great, Liz. So I think we're going to co-teach this now, since you're already making sense of this, right?
I was
And did you
gonna
have something to
say,
add? Mhm.
yes, making like a reading strategy, self to world connections, self to text connections, those type of connections. So it's logical to you, so you can internalize it. So
Very cool. Very cool. Great. Yeah. So this all makes sense, right? So it sounds like something we're doing all the time. And I think this can be like an avenue that we can sort of take advantage of as teachers, I'll say. So great. I appreciate you sharing. So this is actually, this is through the New York Times. And I don't know if you guys have used this before. Yeah, I think it's called Picture of the Week, that kind of thing. Anybody tried this?
Yes, it's what's going on in this image, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Yes, they also
Yeah.
have what's going on in this graph.
Yeah, you could do that.
I just did the one on the
Yeah.
session on primary sources, so this fits right in with what I
awesome,
just did.
Awesome. Welcome, Don. We're just in the middle of this session here. You came right on time. We just started. So what I'm going to ask you to do, and you can use pen and paper for this to make it easy, I'm going to show you an image, and what I want you to do is look closely at the image and think about these 3 questions. Number 1, what is going on in the picture? So you're going to use your evidence per se to try to formulate what the heck is going on, making sense, right? The second thing you're going to do is, what do you see that makes you say that? So you're going to have to, if you're going to say this is going on, you got to state some evidence, okay? And third thing is there anything more you can find? So we're just going to share out a little bit after this, okay? So
it seems
Sure.
like this is the process of, is a lesson I taught, making inferences.
That's totally what it is. Precisely. Yeah, it's like we're using like the same language, right? So yeah, we're going to make inferences. Perfect. So let's do it. So we're going to take about a minute, and then I'm just going to kind of randomly ask people to share out. But I'd like you to follow particularly number 1 and 2. I think we'll leave number 3 aside for time. But like I said, New York Times has these, they post them every week, and they have a whole catalog like going back to 5 years. So this is a fun tool really for any classroom. So let's check it out. Here we go. It's so ridiculous, right? All right. So I guess I won't wait a minute. So what do you think is going on? Anybody?
The animal got released, escaped from the zoo, and he was hiding up on the pole, or the man was trying to get him down. I don't know. It's just crazy.
Now, what makes you say I think it's a chimp. What made the chimp makes you think the chimp escaped from the zoo?
Because it doesn't appear, I've never seen a chimp on wires in my life.
Right. Good call. So you have a logical reason of why you're right. You're making sense of this. Yeah. Okay. I knew this. That makes no sense to me. I got to make sense of this. So this makes sense.
Right.
Fabulous. Anybody else have another idea?
Well, I think because in my experience, where chimps do live in the wild, there aren't heavy utility poles like this. Like, it makes me think it's a more urban area than a jungle or a forest where they would naturally live. So I agree with Anne that it's probably an escape situation.
Okay. So just something to point out, a theme of this idea of sense making is we're often looking for what's called consensus. So we want students to offer observations and ideas with the goal of trying to take it all and it's like, well, what can we all agree on? And that agreement is kind of like it anchors the unit. So the next step is you go further and provide more evidence, and then you share ideas and you find consensus, you anchor again. So you keep anchoring out through the unit. So we're not quite at a unit yet, but you get the idea, right? You want to do one more, or should I show you the answer? How about that? So what I did is I embedded a link in here and this is what happens. On Mondays, I believe, New York Times puts out this photo, but you don't know what's going on. And then they post the real story on Fridays. So you can, it's fun, like on a Monday, post this for your students. And then I believe they can actually go on the Times website and add their ideas. And then on Friday, they post the story. So it's rather fun. And Liz, you're saying they do this with graphs as well?
Yes, there's a graph version of this as well. You know, same idea. It's, you know, the graph will be presented without the caption explaining it.
Yeah.
And then I think they said they provide like the caption and explanatory.
Fabulous. Would you be
afterwards.
would you be able to find a link to that maybe and put it in the
I'm working on it.
Awesome. Great, thank you. So this is from 2016. So again, this is dated. They had a whole catalog and I just saw this one. I was like, what? So I had to pick this. So it's from, they give you the article. See this, you guys could go to it. And basically you are right. And you're done. You can go home early. So a chimpanzee fled from the zoo in northern Japan. So that would be a link, maybe somehow trying to look for any evidence of Japan. Like if I looked at the photo, I don't know. And then, and tried desperately to avoid capture by climbing an electric pole. He didn't stare there long. Cha-Cha, the male chimp, was on the loose for nearly 2 hours on Thursday after he disappeared from the Yagiyama Zoological Park at Sendai, and the city that will be hosting finance ministers and so on and so forth. So they give you more of a breakdown. So it's a lot of fun. And I think what happens if students and you guys do it as teachers, it's a practice of looking at images and trying to really formulate what you think, but you have to substantiate it with evidence. So that's the piece I think it brings it to science, is you want to try to get the kids to offer evidence for whatever they see. Okay, you guys have any questions on that?
No, but I want to share out, just because I am in the session notes and some people are adding some cool things, that it looks like there is a cool connection between, I'm guessing, the previous primary resource session.
Yes.
So there's a cool link into a Library of Congress primary source analysis tool that, like, you know, again, we're looking at a skill that kind of spans content areas, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great, it's a 3 sort of steps cycle process where you observe without making any guesses. Then you start making those analysis, and then you ask more questions. So it's the same cycle, but it's like a worksheet format that Library of Congress made for analyzing their sources.
Outstanding.
So I do it with the younger grades. I notice, I wonder, type of thing.
Fabulous. So, so we save that link, Liz, somewhere in
it's all
the notes.
Trust me, I got this. I'm a great.
Okay, so I put a bunch of these on here for some reason. I thought we could do a lot of them for fun, but we won't.
Wow.
Anyone have any idea what that is, by the way? Any clue?
I just love their faces.
Yeah. So if you check it out, this is a Maori. How do I put it? It's quite like it's like a warrior dance. So if you YouTube it, look up the Maori people from New Zealand. It'll blow your mind. It's just it's done, I believe, either in like funerals and things, or to get people like psyched up for something. So that's it. So if you get a chance to look up Maori, there's a word for it. Anyway, really worth checking out. Here's another interesting photo. So they're just fascinating photos that are on there that you can so use. All right, so I think we did this, right? In cognitive terms, we've explained what we're doing because we're teachers. We like talk about cognitive stuff. So what is sense making? Now, this stuff I kind of pulled out from academic research places. So sense making is literally the act of making sense of an environment achieved by organizing sense data until the environment becomes sensible or is understood well enough to enable reasonable decisions. So we're doing it all the time, I suspect. Or sense making is a process of making sense of whatever phenomenon students are experiencing. Cool. So maybe it's more like this. So while the word sense making may have an informal poetic flavor, that should not mask the fact it's literally just what it says. No big deal. Yeah. Now this came across in this idea on the left side. So maybe just a little sidebar about development and how people see things as they develop. So this photo, I was thinking if you were to ask a child of young enough what's going on, they're going to say the sun's going into the water. And that makes perfect sense. right? So I just, in my mind as a teacher, that's exciting, and I don't want to give them the answer. So I think one of the themes with this sense making too, as teachers, you got to really be careful about sort of giving it away. Because as soon as you give it away, I think it takes away the energy of curiosity. So just something to keep in mind. And that this can be sort of, like I said, take advantage of that curiosity going along the way to uncover more things as you go along. And that's a rather exciting thing about that. My partner's mowing the lawn, couldn't tell. So, and so I'm just gonna give you some couple caveats. I made this slideshow last night. I went to a SenseMaking workshop last fall, found it really fascinating, so I thought I would introduce it. And it did influence my teaching quite a bit. So I'm very much of a lab teacher, and being remote learning, I was kind of stumped. This sort of gave me another tool, and it really broadened my ideas of maybe I just don't need to do demos now, or maybe not just do labs, but I can use just visuals. I can use videos and different things to create curiosity and a way to investigate. I don't always use this because it does take time and preparation. I think it's sort of a backwards way of thinking of units, and I'm not quite normalized to that. I went to a silent disco party last night. I'm a little tired, but I did write an essay. NSTA asked me, and they did post it if you want it. I have a link for it later regarding this type of stuff. So maybe this would be, if I could take a photo, maybe this would be helpful to you, just as sort of the overall conceptual model, how this works. Number one is really for, I'd say, any class perhaps, but I stress this with science class in a unique way. I'll show you, called establishing norms, and just sort of how we're going to function as a group. 2, 3, 4, and 5 are really the nitty gritty of the pattern. So you show a phenomenon, something interesting. You don't give a lot, you just show that. And then they observe it, and you give them time to observe it, much like we did with a photo. They create models. So like today, I'm going to ask you guys to do some drawing, or you can do it on some type of digital platform, and to get them to sort of generate some sense making, right? Some idea about the phenomenon. Then we go back and we discuss it, and we share, and we try to find common thread that becomes the anchor of the consensus. From that point, they generate new questions now that should generate new questions for them. You take those questions, and as a teacher, you can either premeditate what they're going to do, which is probably a good idea. So if you've been teaching this long enough and you understand the content, you can already know what the students are going to do by and large. Or you simply can be super organic and take their questions and launch off from them, and then bring it back to center and re-anchor. That's the repeat. So you can repeat this process through the unit. And I also said pepper learning materials through. So I'd say once you get to this consensus, give them some stuff to study about the content, and then come back, and that is going to give them more fuel to move forward. You guys have any questions on that?
And what grade do you teach?
I teach mostly 11th and 12th grade.
It's so interesting to me because I'm at middle school, and as a department in the district, we're shifting towards the open SciEd curriculum for next year, which is fully on, the NGSS and the New York State Science Learning Standards. And like this exact process is a huge part of how units are written.
Totally. Yep. So I'm not really inventing anything here. I'm just
But you're already doing it. The cool part is that you're already doing it at the high school level in advance of that transition actually happening.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Liz. And you had something to say too? You were muted, that's why.
I muted my phone was ringing, so I muted myself. However, keep in mind, I'm the timekeeper. We have about 18 minutes left.
Cool. Okay. Very good. So creating class norms, what I basically did is I had 4 kind of themes. So respect for our classroom. Students brainstorm these. They shared a sticky notes on Jamboard. Equity in the classroom. Everyone's ideas and participation is valuable. And then committed to a community of learning. And then lastly, That was it. There was one more. So basically the students brainstorm these. And what I do with this is I try to show this regularly. And I say, are we doing this? Are we doing this? If we're not, we got to readdress it. And that kind of keeps I think the value of each other valuable, right? So that's just sort of a precursor. So what I did, and so I'm going to just offer you this unit that I did, and it was basically around corals, but specifically around bleaching. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with bleaching, but the phenomenon is a major impact from climate change that's occurring in corals around the world. And my students, first off, were not very familiar with coral in the first place. So I gave them some context, and we had these 3D images we could look at, which we did. I can't show you on here. I did use Nearpod, which is a lot like Pear Deck. I like a little more tools, I think, but you have to pay for it. So we looked at coral, check it out. So we're down under the water. We watched some videos just about how coral works, right? And then that's the norm board. What we did, why this isn't moving, there we go, is we did some reading, we had some homework on that, and they did some learning on that. And then what was done next is I showed them this phenomenon, and I'm just going to share this with you. Okay. So this is just a video from Netflix from Life on Our Planet. Can you guys see that video? Now, what I like to do with this, because what often happens with videos is people talk over it, and then they start giving away stuff. So with this, I have it on silence, and I just have them basically dive down into the water and see the phenomenon emerge. So this is really the crux of the unit. So they would just sit silently and observe.
I love that idea of them actually like diving down just silently.
Yeah, it's super cool. Yeah. And so I'm not giving them a lot, but they start to see this, like, what is that?
Is that the actual bleaching process there?
That is the actual bleaching process.
Wow.
And it's
I didn't
kind of,
realize
it's time sped up.
But still, I mean, how, like a week or a day or so? Crazy.
That I'm not exactly sure. That's a good question.
That's a great wonder.
Yep. See, that would be a type of question. Exactly. So now they get an overview of like, whoa, what is that? So I leave it at that. Wow, what just happened, right? What is that? So, that ends up being what's called the phenomenon. So then you want to start to plan phenomenon ahead, and it just simply creates curiosity, most likely. That's now, I think because of time, would you guys want to try this? We go to 11:35, is it?
Sounds about right.
Okay, so here's what I'd like you to do.
I thought it was
You get about
11:30.
3 minutes, and you're on your paper. I want you to make a drawing. Now, usually I would play this twice, by the way. You want to make a drawing of what you think happened, okay? And I'd also, if you can, use words and labels to point out what you think is occurring. And I would often prompt students to use vocabulary you've already used. We've already studied coral polyps. We've already studied zooxanthellae. We've already studied photosynthesis. We've already these different terms. So I try to invite them to use that. So draw that out, and then I'm going to just ask a couple of you on your video to share. Now, another thing to do too is fun is and this is a language you probably heard, I put them in what's called the alone zone. So they're going to go in a breakout room on their own. So it's just sort of like they're isolated. You work on your stuff, and then you come back to the main room to share out. So it creates a different environment, I think, just by doing that.
Just to, I think Anne was saying too, it is 11:35.
Right.
Okay, great.
I'm a good
We're doing fine.
timekeeper. I knew it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I think
we
we're doing
should have
fine.
trusted you.
Yeah, we're doing great. Thank you, both of you. And you know, another thing is you can have students post their drawings on Google Classroom, for example, under an assignment. And then what's really good to do is at the next lesson, when you go back to the content again, you share everything they did already. So you would share their phenomenon drawings, right? And sort of just reestablish the lesson again. And I think that's a lot of fun. And then you can move forward. I have a website for my class. So I've actually put what I thought were sort of like exemplar pieces into the website so they could see that again. So how about we go another, one more minute. And you notice I haven't asked a lot in terms of what's causing it, right? We haven't got into anything that's causal. This is just more about describing what's going on. And it kind of goes back to the New York Times thing, right? We're just taking evidence and trying to make meaning of it. Anybody care to share?
I don't know if you're able to see mine.
Oh, good. Can I pin you on the screen? I think I can make you on. Okay, there we go.
Unshare and pin, like we'll be able to see full.
Okay, let me, okay, that's probably better. Let me go.
I tried to do a cartoon.
You guys see that? Is that pinned for you?
I give up. Goodbye, world.
Okay, now, and then, you know, this is where you can ask students, hey, you can be, hey, can you explain a little more for us, Miranda?
Yeah, so I saw the organisms just popping out of their structure, and I kind of envisioned them as little characters just being like, nope, I'm done with this polluted world. I'm just leaving.
Wonderful. Thank you, Miranda. And anyone else care to share?
I saw the sun as a result of global warming penetrating water.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Uh-huh. Probably can't see mine that well.
No, I can see it.
There we go. Yep. So I think I see the word global warming and then a sun.
Right.
Yep. And so can you describe a little more? What do you think? How does that relate to the coral doing this stuff?
Well, the negative rays are penetrating the water. The water is heating up and it's bleaching. The water is a form of a toxic bleach. And it's bleaching them out.
Okay, so now look, so now you're starting to use some content language, and you're starting to use some causal factors. So this is important stuff. So this is the kind of stuff, like as a teacher, you got to be writing this down or something. That way you can share it at the end. We got these clues. They may not be true or right, but they're clues.
It's
good.
My hypothesis.
Yeah. Very good prediction. And I think Liz wanted to share hers too.
So mine's totally different because I know absolutely nothing about coral or bleaching or anything.
That's okay.
And my frame is always like, I don't know, biochemical. So here's my totally radically different, and I know it's not correct because I Googled it. But that's okay because this is very realistic, right?
Yep.
So here's I don't know anything about coral. So here's my coral. And then here's my zoom in on like the surface of the coral. So I was really drawing more on like my knowledge of like plant layers. So in my head, I saw like outer layers of cells that had chloroplast in them, and then an inner layer of cells that doesn't. And I decided to go with, what if there was a solute or something in the water that was causing the outer cells to lyse? Leaving
good language.
epithelium being stripped away and leaving an underlayer that doesn't have chloroplast.
Fabulous. So it's sort of now, it seems we sort of have two competing theories here, right? Thank you, Miss Hunzak. We'll be right there.
Oh, Michelle.
Yeah.
Well, I actually equated it to like bleaching. If you leave your furniture out, you know, and half of it's covered and half you see the bleach of it.
Hey, great. So yeah, so this is nice because now you're making an analogy, right? So I kind of hear two competing theories. So it's like perhaps the warming one that Anne suggested, maybe is causing this. And then I think Liz is stating there's something here with that's solute in the water, making it happen. Great. And then there's an analogy here related to putting furniture in the sun, it gets kind of faded. I'm hearing you right. So these are the types of things you want to maybe as a teacher rephrase it and check it with them. Am I making sense here? Is that what you said? And then you keep that. That is your anchor. So this is your piece you want to establish with your team as you're exploring. That's it. You're just exploring, which is fun. And that's it. Awesome. So somehow you'd want to maybe summarize that or put that into a picture. It's so much easier in a classroom in ways because they could go up to a board and draw. You could keep it there. So this is where share boards get really helpful, things of that nature. So thank you all for sharing and being willing to do that. Really
now,
great.
I know you have older kids. I have 5th and 4th.
Yeah.
And so when we share on Jamboard, they completely delete other people, scratch out. I mean, it's just, so we stopped using Jamboard altogether. Could do the most damage to the other person.
Can I make a suggestion that's a little bit of a hijack? And I don't know if it's age appropriate, because I'm middle school and high school and I don't go below 7th grade, but there's a math tool out there and called Desmos. And it was designed for math, right? But recently Desmos added the ability to have a drawing tool. So you could literally create a Desmos activity that just gives kids like a drawing canvas, and that's all it is. And then what's very cool is you will see every kid's individual drawing because it will be their own individual response. But you as the teacher can see all the individual drawings at one time. I think you also have the ability to kind of show them all simultaneously on top of each other.
Pear Deck does too.
But it lets you kind of like, again, bypass that. You maintain it. I think it retains the data a little better than Pear Deck. I think Pear Deck, I always like, it doesn't really save the drawing. So going back to reclaim that thinking can be challenging. Desmos will hold on to it a little longer. So you can go back and say, oh, this is what you drew. And this is what this student drew. So it's a hack. It's not really meant for science, but once they added that drawing tool, I was like, yep, we can use it for anything now because it's just another surface.
Very cool. Thanks, Liz.
Excuse me for interrupting. I don't know where my face disappeared to, but we have 5 minutes left. I don't know where it just, can you see me?
I see you.
Yep, I see you.
Yeah. Well, I think we have 10. We go to 35, I think. So I think we got 10.
I can't see you guys. I don't know.
Oh, weird. I see you fine.
Oh, I can't see you.
Yeah.
And we do go to 10:35. You're right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's super. And I know share boards like in Nearpod, when they put something in, it's done. They can't touch anybody's.
Right.
I don't know if Padlet could be that way too. I don't use that.
I don't know about drawing on Padlet. I've never used it that way, but
yeah, and like drawing too on Google Classroom, I'll post an assignment and they post their drawing, so no one can tamper it.
Yeah.
So do you have them? How do you have them post their drawing? Because that's where I'm.
That's where I think high school and elementary, I think that's the divide. Like for my middle schoolers, like we've tried like take a picture of it and post it, but they don't have the skill set yet to do that.
Yeah. So
there was so much skill set we had to teach.
Yeah.
Do you use a platform like Google or Microsoft?
Yep, Google.
Google. So you would just, you know how to post an assignment on Google?
Oh, absolutely.
So you can literally have, if you look up Google Drawing as an app,
right,
you can literally set that as an assignment and post that on there. Then they can draw right on that, and each one has their own, and then that's it. And there's also ways students can attach images to an assignment.
Right. I've had them do that for like the they each had to look up and find what the most interesting, picture of this.
So that would be worth trying, I guess. Cool.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. So
I had a question about, we're kind of encouraging students to, just go where their own background knowledge is taking them. Do you have a specific strategy? because like you said, we don't want to just give them the answer, but like getting them back on track. Like, do you have a specific method of doing that without sort of giving up, you know, the surprise?
No. No, not well, in a sense where I'm trying to elicit their information to get enough clues to get us forward. And yes, there's a point, if you so choose as a teacher, you can end it right there. And then you can offer the content, or giving homework or assignments that are going to give them more knowledge about the phenomenon. So yeah, so I think, but really having these anchoring things is really the juicy part of it.
Yeah, the anchoring concept I hadn't considered.
Yeah, it could go really bad where you could just have a bunch of random information and then that's it. It's like, what do we have here? Well, I don't know. So that's where you got to really get them to get consensus. And if you feel like they're straying, right, because they could stray, they could go totally off the chart, right? Therefore, you know, like Liz's hypothesis, everybody goes with Liz's and it's like, that's like wrong, right? So you have to be, it really is planning, looking at that and making some decisions. Well, do I go with this and let them fail per se, find out it wasn't exactly true? And that's fine. That's valuable.
Yeah.
Or do I give them a thread? So that's why I think once Anne had that, we have two competing theories here, hypotheses, whatever. Let's explore those. And hopefully by the end, you're going to see one is more fitting. Yeah. So I think that's I think probably a higher level thing as a teacher to work on.
Well, and I think
I like this mindset, you know, failing is not bad, part of the process.
I think it's a challenge though, that's also like, you know, in the same year, you can have two groups of students that come in with two very different areas of background knowledge and like connections that they make. So like if you have the group that is taking one route, you have to say, okay, I need to provide them a slightly different, maybe I do need to front load or provide slightly different evidence or materials to steer their thinking. And
totally.
That's the challenge, is like one size is not going to fit all, even, you know, across the same year with our cohort of 100 to 120 kids that I'm teaching. Every class might need a slightly different nudge. Yeah,
and I think a lot of phenomenon in science, it's not one cause. So if you look at asthma has got, you know, all these factors related to the environment. You've got behavior, you've got genetics. So sometimes things can be very complicated. So I think this can open up the complication more real. Yeah. So in the sense of, exactly. So I just want to just kind of walk through the remaining sort of steps, if you will. So you guys basically just created a model, right? And then what I had them do is I had them do some reading, which helped them make their model. So there it was, I threw some content in there, right? And then what I basically did, what causes coral bleaching? Because now they had that language. And then we did a share board. And then I don't have that on here, but that's what this eventually was. So they did a share board, different sticky notes. And then I asked them, what questions do you have? So they had a lot of questions. And this is where as a teacher, it's like, whoa, where do I go with this? But I already kind of had a plan trying to get to the cause. So what I basically did is I gave in another phenomenon. And all it was a map of where corals are found and where they're not. And I asked them why. And then we looked at temperature data and asked them, do you see any relationship with corals and temperatures? Oh yeah, interesting. So now we kind of had a thread about temperature, right? So I gave them, you know, I'd say I kind of gave them a stronger avenue to move forward. And I felt like that was fine. And, you know, what happened eventually is they took data from specific sites in the ocean that have been measuring water temperatures since like 1960s. And they correlated that to bleaching events. And it was like a dead correlation.
That's
so it was
awesome.
very cool. Yeah. So that tended to be I was using Google Sheets and doing more of a science thing with it. So that was awesome. Yeah.
What was the time frame for this lesson?
Yeah, this took about I'd say 3 weeks. Now we only meet twice a week. So yeah, it's about 3 weeks. And luckily we're not, what was that?
Do you have blocks?
Yeah, they're an hour and a little more.
Okay.
The school that well, and we're also very liberal with our curriculum. We're not bound by
Yeah.
state testing.
Yep.
So this makes it a lot more easy, I could say, as a teacher. Now, I did share the link with you guys to this slideshow. I think you'll have
Can
it.
you share it again? Because I,
Oh yeah.
It's
Yep,
in,
no
so
problem.
it's all in the session notes.
Oh, it is? Okay.
presentation It's the very
Okay.
first link in the session notes.
Mhm.
And then a number of other resources were linked in there as well.
Yeah,
And
because we have
Awesome.
about 2 minutes. So
Dan, you're
these,
still in my row. I was
oh,
gonna
sorry. I have
next.
no idea what time it is. What time is it?
I was about to say you got 2 minutes. It's 11:33.
Fabulous.
Thank
So
you,
the-
Daniel. I'm
thank
gonna
you.
run real quick.
So these links, you bet, are this wonder of science goes to a lot of phenomenon that are very video based, really cool. This sense making at a distance is an STA explanation of it. There's a little article about me if you're interested. An STA daily dues. This I think would be, as an elementary teacher, really amazing because they follow a similar format and there's already units made for you. They have elementary, middle, and high. This is the site where I got a lot of my data from for coral bleaching. And they have stuff about bleaching and ocean acidification. And this is based on an activity. So I kind of nab stuff from this. And there's like
I
all the
use
data
stuff like
sets.
this for
Yeah.
I teach the dark web for like a research strategy, and like all these
Whoa.
data sets are in the dark web, and they don't know where to get them. So I'd like to see that you're doing that, showing
Yep.
them where to get that data.
Yep. Yeah, that's important as a science, get some real data sets. So this is this daily do thing. This is really like, this is where I got this model from, really. They trained me some. So this is just a lot of, they have so many units that could, like you said, with time, take a long time or not. So that's all there for you. I hope you get a chance to use it.
Well, thank you. This was
Yeah,
great.
thank you all too.
Cool.
Glad you enjoyed. Glad you
Dan,
enjoyed.
are you on Twitter or anything?
I have a Twitter handle. I don't use it a lot,
So
but I check it more for news.
you should, because you're doing some very cool stuff.
Oh yeah.
You
I think
should,
I should post this on my Twitter.
you should definitely. And so I'm just thinking, we had that district-wide department PD earlier with Dr. Mader that was like
Yeah.
looking at modeling a little bit.
Mhm.
And that PD left me wanting so much more. And I feel like the work that you're doing here is very powerful.
Oh, cool.
And very indicative of the direction that we're supposed to be heading instructionally, specifically K through 8 starting next year, eventually high school. And like, you have such a, you have it already, you're doing it. And there's so many teachers who push back and say, but we can't, and I don't know how, and it's not possible. So I think if you haven't connected with Dr. Mader at all or not.
No, like I said, I'd be happy to. Do you want my Twitter, or I could put it into the? I can put in the notes.
Out there, I'm gonna follow you just on the off
Oh,
chance.
Okay, great. So I don't know if you can you see it there? I can just type it in. How about I put it in the notes? That's where it should go anyway, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll throw it in the notes, and you put yours in there too, right?
Yes, I put mine in there.
Okay.
Just because I mean, I'm a special ed teacher, but science is my passion, and I teach science very frequently, but I struggle to find people who approach science planning and then science instruction from the lens that I use.
There's a lot of commonality.
That's why I'm advocating.
No, well, the thing about it too is because it makes me excited because I'm kind of exploring along the way with them in a more authentic way as a learner, because I'm very passionate about environmental sciences, and the world for that matter. And this is exactly, yeah. And so the top down, here's the content, let's play around. It's like, this is a lot more, and there's a time cost for sure and all that, but I think it's a lot more curiosity building.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of, you see a lot of blind spots for students. So you can, I guess take advantage of that too. And it's like, yeah, Santa Claus, he's not real, or he's real, So a little of this, oh, well, wow. It's interesting what the students think. Sometimes it's pretty mind blowing. You're like, wow,
it's
they really
when
think
we
that.
literally get it, and when we can build enough trust with our kids, For them to like tell us and for us to give them the avenues to show us what they actually are thinking, what they actually think they understand, like
Mhm.
how they're conceptualizing things. It's both fascinating. Sometimes it's heartbreaking. Oh,
Yeah.
honey, like who let you walk out of their classroom thinking that?
Oh man. Yeah. I had a student for that unit. I remember she wrote, after we watch videos, after we research, she's like, why are the people bleaching the coral to make it look pretty? And I was just like, what?
Well, I'm there. Yeah.
So yeah, there's some of that
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, thank you
Well,
so
thanks,
much.
Liz. Yeah. So I'm
Awesome.
I'll put in my Twitter right now on that note set, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Yep. See you soon.